Your credit card statement tells you that you owe $1,200. Right below that, it says your minimum payment is just $35. That feels manageable. That feels almost generous. Like the credit card company is doing you a favor. They're not. That tiny minimum payment isn't designed to help you. It's designed to keep you paying for as long as possible. And once you understand how this works, you'll never look at that statement the same way again. Here's what took me way too long to figure out. Credit card companies aren't in the business of lending you money. They're in the business of charging you interest, and the minimum payment is their masterpiece. It's the perfect amount to keep you comfortable enough to not pay it off, but small enough that you stay in debt for years, sometimes decades. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. Say you have a balance of $5,000 on a credit card with a 19% annual interest rate. That's pretty average, by the way. Some cards are way higher. Your minimum payment might be around $100. Seems reasonable. You can swing that. But here's what happens if you only pay that minimum every month. It will take you 9 years and 4 months to pay off that debt. 9 years for a $5,000 balance. And by the time you're done, you won't have paid $5,000. You'll have paid over $9,300, almost double what you originally spent. That extra $4,300, that's pure profit for the credit card company. That's what they were hoping for when they set that minimum payment so low. Now, why does this happen? This is where we need to talk about how interest actually works on credit cards, because it's sneakier than you might think. Most people assume interest gets calculated once a month. Nope, credit card companies calculate interest daily. They take your annual interest rate, divide it by 365, and charge you that amount every single day based on your balance. So, with a 19% annual rate, you're getting charged about 0.05% every day. That doesn't sound like much, but it adds up fast. And here's the brutal part. That interest gets added to your balance, which means tomorrow you're paying interest on a slightly bigger number, and the next day, bigger still. This is compound interest working against you. You've probably heard compound interest described as this magical wealth-building tool, and it is when you're the one earning it. But when you're the one paying it, it's a slow-motion financial trap. Think of it like a leak in your boat. A tiny leak doesn't seem like a big deal. But if you're only bailing out a cup of water while a cup and a half is pouring in, your boat is still sinking. Just slowly enough that you don't panic. That's what minimum payments do. You're bailing water, but you're not keeping up with the leak. Now, credit card companies are actually required to show you this. If you look at your statement, there's a box that says something like minimum payment warning. It tells you how long it will take to pay off your balance if you only pay the minimum and how much you'll pay in total. Most people skip right over it. I did for years. But it's worth finding. It's the closest thing to a confession you'll ever get from a credit card company. So why do they set minimum payments so low? Simple math. The longer you take to pay off your balance, the more interest you pay. The more interest you pay, the more money they make. That's it. There's no conspiracy theory here. It's just business. And you happen to be the product. Here's something that might make you a little angry. Credit card companies have teams of very smart people whose entire job is to figure out the perfect minimum payment amount. Too high, and people pay off their balances too fast. Too low, and people default and don't pay at all. That sweet spot in the middle? That's where they want you, paying just enough to stay current, but not enough to actually make progress. Some cards set the minimum at 1% of your balance. Others use 2%. Some have a flat floor, like $25 or $35, whichever is greater. The exact formula varies, but the goal is always the same. Keep you paying for as long as possible, and they make it so easy to fall into this trap. When money is tight, that minimum payment feels like a life raft. You can handle $35. You can handle $100. It lets you push the real problem into the future, which is exactly where the credit card company wants it to stay. All right. So now you know the trap. What do you actually do about it? First, and this one sounds obvious, but most people don't do it, pay more than the minimum. Even a little more makes a massive difference. Let's go back to that $5,000 balance at 19%. If you paid $200 a month instead of the minimum, you'd be debt-free in 2 years and 8 months, and you'd pay about $6,400 total. That's still more than you borrowed, but it's almost $3,000 less than if you'd stuck with the minimum. $3,000, just from paying an extra $100 a month. If you can't afford to double your payment, even $20 or $30 extra helps. The key is that every extra dollar goes straight toward your actual balance, not interest. It chips away at the principal, which means less interest tomorrow, which means you're finally bailing water faster than it's coming in. Second tip, if you have multiple credit cards with balances, focus your extra payments on the one with the highest interest rate first. Keep paying minimums on the others, but throw every extra dollar at the expensive one. Once that's gone, move to the next highest. This is called the avalanche method. It saves you the most money over time. Some people prefer the snowball method, where you pay off the smallest balance first for the psychological win. That works too. The best debt payoff strategy is the one you'll actually stick with. But if you're purely optimizing for dollars saved, go after the highest interest rate first. Third, call your credit card company and ask for a lower interest rate. I know, this sounds like something that wouldn't work, but it does, more often than you'd expect. If you've been a customer for a while and you've been paying on time, you have leverage. The worst they can say is no, and sometimes they say yes, and suddenly your 19% rate is 15%. That's not nothing. Fourth, look into balance transfer cards. Some credit cards offer 0% interest for 12 to 18 months when you transfer a balance from another card. There's usually a fee, typically 3 to 5% of the amount you transfer. But if you can pay off the balance within that zero interest window, you save a ton. Just be careful. If you don't pay it off in time, the regular interest rate kicks in, and you might be worse off than where you started. Fifth, and this is the long game. Once you're out of credit card debt, try to pay your balance in full every month. This is the only way to use credit cards without paying interest at all. You get whatever rewards or cash back the card offers, you build your credit score, and you pay $0 in interest. That's using the credit card as a tool instead of letting it use you. I know that's easier said than done. Life happens, emergencies happen, sometimes you have to carry a balance. But if you can get to a place where you're paying in full most months, you've basically escaped the trap entirely. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Credit card companies are not your friends. They're also not villains. They're businesses designed to make money, and minimum payments are one of their most effective tools for doing that. But now you know how it works. You've seen the math. You understand why that minimum payment is set where it is, and that knowledge is worth something. So here's your homework. Tonight or tomorrow morning, pull up your most recent credit card statement. Find that minimum payment warning box. Look at how long it will take to pay off your balance at the minimum and how much you'll pay total. Then look at what happens if you pay more. Let that number sink in. Then decide what you're going to do about it. If this video helped you see credit cards a little differently, consider subscribing to Like Your 5. We break down money topics like this every week. No jargon, no lectures, just clear explanations that actually make sense. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.